This Sunday on Capital Connection, tax breaks are coming.
It was our responsibility as lawmakers to put money back in the pockets of hardworking Illinois.
Democrats leave Springfield going on defense and making their case to win re-election as they hold supermajorities in the House and Senate, and Republicans go on offense, looking to eat into those majorities and possibly win some statewide offices. Our guests this week include exclusive interviews from House Speaker Chris Welch and Senate Republican leader Dan McConkey. And on our Reporters Roundtable, Jerry Nowicki with Capital News Illinois and Amanda Vinicky from WTTW. It's all coming up on Capital Connection.
From the Illinois State Capitol Rotunda, Capitol Bureau Chief Mark Maxwell is asking the tough questions. This is Capital Connection.
Welcome to Capital Connection. I'm Mark Maxwell reporting from the Illinois State House on this Sunday, April 17. The Illinois House and Senate adjourned early last Saturday morning after passing tax cuts and spending more on police and public safety than they have in a generation. The debate dragged on overnight until after 6 a.m. and several tense moments showed signs the two parties are itching for a fight at the ballot box this November.
We passed a fiscally and socially responsible budget that responds directly to the needs of families across this state. With inflation surging to its highest in nearly 4 decades, it was our responsibility as lawmakers to put money back in the pockets of hardworking Illinoisans. That's what we did here.
We've got many months ahead of us, and elections come and go, and let's see where the chips fall.
There are things we are doing that are permanent in this bill. There are things we are doing that are inflation relief during times of high inflation. What $50 may not seem like a lot to some people, a couple of dollars here, a couple of dollars there may not seem like a lot to some people. I can tell you there's people in our caucus for whom it is very important.
You don't want to actually have to take tough votes because you misspent all the federal dollars and the federal funds that were coming in. You were the ones who misspent $1.8 billion so that you could dole it out to your members for their pet projects instead of responsibly paying off unemployment insurance debt.
Deanne, if you want to vote no on a bill that cuts taxes, adds money to the budget stabilization fund, adds money to pensions because you want to be pedantic right now, that's on you. This is a tax cut. This is fiscally responsible.
I'm really getting a kick out of hearing the Democrats talk about fiscal responsibility.
Boy, oh boy, you guys really hate that we balance the budget and are paying our debts, don't you?
It's because of your policies. Working families, seniors, folks on fixed incomes are getting hammered. They're getting hammered today because of a Democrat-fueled inflation, an inflation that is spreading like wildfire. And inflation, we all know, is the most cruel and regressive tax on working families, and it's a byproduct of your policies. And now you got the audacity to come in here and brag about fiscal responsibility.
You actually see fiscal responsibility after years and years and years of complaining about fiscal responsibility, and you won't even lift a finger to vote yes to support fiscal responsibility. You know, you liked it better when you were driving the state into the ground. You liked it better when you had an unpaid bill backlog of $17 billion. You liked it better when we were laying off workers. You liked it better when people were suffering out in our communities. You liked it better when you were cutting services to seniors. You liked it better when you voted against funding K-12 education. House Democrats, Senate Democrats, we're doing the work. This isn't about the shows, this isn't about the speeches, this is about paying our debts, increasing our credit ratings, balancing a budget, and funding the services our folks need.
You're not fooling the folks on Main Street. They get it. They're tired of it. And they're gonna clean this chamber out come November.
House Speaker Chris Welch joins us now from his offices in Hillside. Speaker, it's good to have you with us.
Hey, Mark, good to be with you.
I wonder how you think the budget, the tax relief will help Democrats or will shape the election. We're going to see a few signs of that in the near future. Stickers starting to show up on gas pumps saying that Illinois froze our gas taxes in July. And a check will show up signed by an Illinois Democrat as soon as September. Will these tax cuts, these tax breaks help Democrats at the ballot box?
Well, I think more importantly, Mark, this budget and these tax breaks are going to help families at home. These tax breaks are going to help mothers and fathers put food on the table. It's going to help people who have to go to work put gas in their car. It's going to put a check in their pocket when they get their property tax rebate. It's responsive to the concerns that we've been hearing at the doors when it comes to inflation. Is it everything people want? Absolutely not. But will it help? Certainly it will.
You backed raising overall income taxes on the rich in the graduated income tax, but now, in a different circumstance, you're backing bigger tax refunds and rebates. You also backed doubling the gas tax and tying it to inflation. Now you're changing hard on that and saying let's not rise with inflation while people are feeling pain at the pump. So is this a change of heart? Are tax cuts now a part of the Democratic platform in Illinois?
Mark, let me say that I think part of a legislator's job is to pay attention to what's going on in the real world, what's going on in the nation, what's going on in the state. When we made some important changes in 2019 that have helped us balance our budget for 4 consecutive years in a row, none of us expected 6 months later that we would be in the middle of a global health pandemic that would go on to last for 2+ years. This global health pandemic is real, and my dog barking is real. Sorry about that. But what we did in the budget this year is a direct reflection of being in a global pandemic and people hurting.
They say sometimes being a speaker is like herding cats. I didn't know it would be shepherding dogs as well.
Only when they ring your doorbell.
Right. So I understand you're saying that politicians of all stripes and all parties should be responsive to the changing circumstances on the ground. Could that also include future tax increases should the state need it, or is that something that you think is off the table?
Mark, I'm not going to talk about what's going to happen in the future. What I can do is talk about what's going on right now, what we're hearing at the doors right now. Illinois has its best fiscal situation in decades. I mean, this is the 4th balanced budget in a row. We're projected to have a second year in a row of credit upgrades. And that's because of the good fiscal work that we've been doing in the legislature. We expect that to continue. And certainly we hope that continues with Democrats in charge.
Republicans said that they want to get tough on crime. Your Assistant Majority Leader, Jahan Gordon Booth, a Peoria Democrat, said Democrats want to be smart on crime. What's the difference?
Well, I think that you can be tough on crime, but be smart about it. Being smart about it means you're taking a holistic approach, that you're not just throwing money at one issue. You have to address it holistically. And that's the difference between the two parties. We're being smart about it. You cannot address this issue by just throwing money toward one situation. We're putting money into law enforcement. We're investing heavily in the law enforcement, but we're also investing heavily in the root causes. Both of those taken together holistically is what's going to improve the system. What our friends on the other side of the aisle would like to do is, actually, honestly, I don't know what they want to do because they voted no on everything. And there's only one party in this state that's voting to defund the police, and that's not the Democratic Party, that's the Republican Party.
House Democrat Justin Slaughter said that many of these Republican campaign calls to crack down on crime with tougher penalties especially gave off what he called, quote, the stench of racism. Do you agree?
Well, if you listen to the Republican rhetoric, Mark, a lot of it is dog whistles, and they're blowing those dog whistles loud. And that's what they do at election time because they try to drive voters based on fear. And that's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate because there's a lot of good things going on in this state. They should be talking about the great things going on in this state, but since they're not the ones behind those good things, they want to talk about things that will scare people. They want to run a campaign based on fear tactics, and unfortunately, they're doing that based on race. So yes, I agree with what Representative Slaughter had to say.
You hold a significant position as the first black speaker elected in the House. In Illinois' 200-plus year history, You also, when you were sworn in, promised a new day in Illinois. And so I wonder how you'll answer this question of the appearance of some suspicion. The Chicago Tribune is reporting that House Democrat Thaddeus Jones is under federal investigation relating to his use of campaign funds. Should he lead a privileged position of chairing a committee while he's under federal investigation?
Well, first of all, Mark, let me say I'm not completely up to date on the Thaddeus Jones situation. But as I have said in previous situations, everyone's entitled to due process. Right now, an investigation is pending. Let's let the people that are doing that investigation do that investigation. As we have learned, they know how to do their job. They do a very good job at that. And we'll take it step by step. And if the situation calls for our involvement, we'll get involved. But right now, I think the most important thing to do is let the U.S. Attorney do their job.
We know that corruption is also, it's an issue that both parties have discussed and confronted and debated how to tackle in Illinois, but Republicans especially are campaigning hard on that issue. How will you judge your success as a speaker in campaign mode? Do you hope to hold the supermajority, just hold the majority? How will you measure success in November?
Well, I'm going to measure success, first of all, by the first two sessions that we've had under my speakership. I think we have had two of the most productive sessions in the history of this state. When it comes to the elections, the national winds are against Democrats this year. We know that. This is going to be a tough year based on what's happening in Washington, D.C.
Whose fault is that?
Pardon?
Whose fault is that?
Well, I don't know if that's anyone's fault. It's just how politics works in our country. Every now and then the political winds reset. And this year, we're fighting some tough winds. We're going to do our part. We're going to knock on doors. We're going to take it to the voters and let them know why Illinois is in a better place today than it was 4 years ago. And I don't know anyone who's going to want to take us back to where we were 4 years ago when Bruce Rauner and the Republicans like Jim Durkin were destroying this state. And so we feel good about where we are. We're comfortable with talking to the voters, and I look forward to November.
You halfway answered my last question for me. Voters pick the leaders of our state this November. When voters go to the polls, do you think that they will feel better now than they did 2 years ago, the last big election?
I think voters in Illinois have a clear choice. We're better off today than we were 4 years ago. We're better off today than we were 2 years ago. This is a much improved state because of the leadership of J.B. Pritzker and the Democratic-led majorities. And I believe that when we make our case to the voters this summer and fall, that case will be heard.
All right, Speaker Welch, I think we're running out of time, but I appreciate you joining us. Thanks for hopping on.
Hey, Mark, thank you, and good luck to you in your next adventure.
I appreciate that. We're back in just a moment with Senate Republican leader Dan McConkey. Stick around.